All right, and it looks like we're good to go. What's going on, everyone, and how are you all doing? Welcome to the best place for Xbox talk on Sunday nights, the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is episode number 157, a show dedicated to Xbox-centric topics and a little more from around the gaming industry. This is your host, Invader. Yes, I know, ladies, you're going to have to, just try and contain yourselves as I get through the show, but hey, be patient. Contain yourselves, like I said. We've got a lot of stuff to get through to cover from the past week. Earlier, we saw somebody at 343 Industries get moved around. Very interesting stuff going on there. He stepped down from his position. As well, some new info dropping from AMD regarding full RDNA 2 on Xbox Series consoles, plus a slew of other things that have been going around the gaming industry. But first, let me introduce the TXR panel tonight, and I'm going to kick off things with Centurion. Centurion, brother, what's new? Have you gotten your clock straightened out yet?
Yes. I live in the magical world of Arizona, everybody, where we don't have daylight savings time. All right. So, yes, I showed up for the show an hour early today.
I think it's the only state.
Yes, I believe we are the only state that doesn't have daylight savings. I don't even really know what that means. Does that mean we're special, or does that mean we're just like rebels?
But anyway, it means you're normal. How about that?
It means you're normal. I'm not scared to work with the sun down. Anyways, but other than that, I've been able to kind of get some gaming in, though. I just bought Hunt Showdown. I'm actually going to try that out with some friends. I've been playing Watch Dogs 2 and, of course, the regular ESO thing. So I've been able to game this week. I'm excited, man. It's been a slow news week, but we actually got some decent topics to have some really good combos about.
Watch Dogs 2, is it because of Watch Dog Legions you're dipping your toe back into that whole
Oh yeah, I'm weird. Yeah. I'm OCD. I can't be one of those guys. It's like I'm gonna go play part 3 before I experience part 1 or 2. So I've already done part 1. I got to do part 2 now. I'm enjoying it. It's definitely different. It's not one of those games where you just run around and kill stuff. You just gotta kind of be a little bit more strategic, hack, and I like the fact that also, like, the one gun you get is a taser in the beginning of the game, so you're running around tasing people.
True. I've never played a Watch Dogs, man. I like the stealth aspect, but you know what? I don't want to be restrained from just pulling out a gun and just going crazy.
You're not restrained from that, but as you first play the game, well, if you Watch Dog 1, oh, dude, Aiden Pierce, yeah, dude, get your gun. Like, there's times they make you go hunt dudes, and like they are literally full force trying to run you over, and you literally get out of your car with a grenade launcher, and as they're just hauling out, you just aim that thing and just watch that car go. I mean, people said Aiden Pierce came off as a very aggressive character in the first game. Mm-hmm. In the first game, you can go level some things just because of how aggressive of a character he is, and they dialed that back in Watch Dogs 2, where they now want you to concentrate on getting in the cameras and manipulating the environment and distracting guards and stuff like that. You can still shoot them, but there was definitely a much more heavy emphasis on, I guess, a more stealth aspect.
Now, gotcha. Megatron, I'd give it a shot because it's a completely different take on the genre. Yeah, it does seem, it does things similar, but at the end of the day, it does things different enough to it keeps you playing the game. It's a good game.
No, okay, sure. So Centurion said that he goes back and plays the prior. So should I start with 1 and work my way up to Legions, or just
no, because
they haven't really connected the games that heavily.
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly.
I know. I've heard that Aiden Pierce makes a cameo in Watch Dogs 2 and the DLC as a character. But from what I've heard, Watch Dogs Legion is actually going to be its own standalone thing. Like, they didn't even bring back the voice actor for Marcus in Watch Dogs 2. So I think they're just kind of making Watch Dogs Legion more of a major standalone title from the other 2 games.
It's got that cyberish punk kind of feel to it too.
No,
by the way. Really,
no, I don't think so.
I
don't
think it's going to feel like Cyberpunk, but it's going to have Cyberpunk is going to be one of those games where you have a lot of reflections, ray tracing, and eye candy. Yeah. And that is something that they wanted with Watch Dogs 2, which is why they have it locked, I believe, at 30 frames a second. but that's because they wanted to put a lot into the engine when it came to ray tracing and reflections, because it takes place in London, and they really wanted to get that image of you traveling through the city with all that glass.
It looks fabulous. The holographs, the little, was that a commercial thing flying around the car? I have to say that game looks beautiful. I'm looking forward to trying. It wasn't on my radar, but I tell you what, now it is.
Now, if I were to compare it to something, it would probably be a mixture of Grand Theft Auto with a Splinter Cell feel to it.
I would say that.
Yeah, so you have different gadgets at your disposal. So like you can bust out your cell phone and hack different cameras in the world, and just do different things to it to disrupt the enemies and you can take control of different power plants.
Or learning to traverse the environment. Like you'll come up to a data pad that you have to hack, and you'll get out your cell phone and it'll show you like the power cable that goes from that data pad in the ground, and you have to actually follow that cable back to its power source so you can hack it. And sometimes it's like on top of a building, and you have to like literally stare at this building like, how the hell am I going to get up there?
And I do like the way part 1 starts off, where you're stuck in a stadium, and in order to get away, because everyone's looking for you, including like I think the FBI.
Spoiler.
So spoiler. And he shuts off the entire city block in order to escape.
Nice.
So
now I want to play it. I gotta check it out.
Well,
I'm always behind.
That's what got Aiden Pierce declared as a terrorist, because at the beginning of the game, you shut down the power grid for the city to escape, and you basically like shut down hospitals and all sorts of stuff. So you basically got instantly branded as like a terrorist because you shut down the city.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, moving down the list here. Eric Shockley, man. How's the past week been for the gaming scene for you?
Pretty good. Just waiting. This last week is going to be like the longest week ever to try to get to these consoles. But yeah, just excited seeing all those unboxings. Wish I could be big enough to get one of those early. But just enjoying. So far, I'm just like not wanting. I'm in this stage like I think some other people are, where I just don't want to play anything that's on my Xbox or whatever. Just because I'm like, I don't want to finish this game because I want to experience it, with some of those new life quality of life things. So I'm playing some retro stuff just to get me by. Some of my Switch. So
just to ask, because it happened with me. Has anybody's pre-orders officially gone through? Like my bank officially processed all my pre-orders. I've been waiting for that day for a long time.
I did mine at GameStop, so there's nothing really to process. So
But, I bought mine online. So the way it works online is you put in for the pre-order, but you're not officially charged until like 2 weeks from the date that pre-order is going to go out. And I've had so many people show me images of like Target and all these other guys getting their pre-orders canceled for no reason. And luckily mine actually went through. I have been charged by Microsoft and Target officially.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine.
Yeah, Target tries to do tests on your card like 10 times for me.
Oh yeah, they actually held my $600 and some in processing for over a month, and then it finally dropped off. And then my wife came up to me yesterday and she's like, when did you spend $600 at Target? I just got a text. And I was like, woo, it went through. It went through. Oh, man. But yeah, I was worried they were going to cancel my PS5 pre-order.
I just got mine too. I just checked. So same thing. I got charged $543.
Nice.
So I'm in too.
Nice, Timmy.
I mean, so I hate to be Debbie Downer over here, but is everybody getting their stuff delivered? Because looks like we're headed for another lockdown.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Looks like another lockdown's coming on. I don't know.
I can make a joke and say I don't got to worry about lockdowns. I live in Arizona.
Right. Well, I ordered mine. I got both consoles through Best Buy. I ordered it online. So as far as I know, everything it's still processing, but it says that it's supposed to be coming on the day of, or so fingers crossed. I'm gonna be keeping up with that.
You'll get it the day of.
You see fun speculation in the chat here. How he says Target screwed me over. I met him on the Shop podcast just a few weeks ago, and he was one of the ones that showed me an image on Twitter. Target canceled his pre-order without warning. Didn't even get an email.
Target sucks.
Yeah, he went to check on his pre-order, and it basically said that it had been canceled.
Yeah, a lot of Target. I've seen Target a lot as a complaint, and a lot of Amazon too. People had their Amazons just canceled.
I did get a warning from Target that like, hey, your card didn't go through, which is weird because I had plenty of money in that account. So like, well, let me switch to a different account just so to shut you up. But
I know they give you that fine print that basically says, if we try to charge your card and it don't work, you're SOL.
I'm like,
I was actually called by Best Buy because I'm picking it up at the store that day. I have the S. I have multiple. I have the X coming by mail, and then I have the S with 2 expansion cards and that blue Sega controller. And they called me. They said, do you want to come before the store opens? But I'm working that day, so I said, I'll see if I can get the day off. But if I can't, I'm probably just going to go right after work and pick up the S.
You got 2 expansions, huh, Tim? Nice, man. I'm on the fence with that, man. I did pick up 14 terabytes. I know I'm still going to be using it.
That's nice. I was going to get that too.
Yeah, it's a great sale.
It is a great. It's still available, I think. So
yeah, certain places. The 16 one was sold out. There's a 16 terabyte and a 14 terabyte. They were both on sale. The 16 went and it was like sold out immediately. I think there's some left on the 14, and I'm still downloading games. I got like over 700 something games, and I started Friday and it's still going as I'm looking right now.
Well, I just picked up a Seagate hard drive as well, like just 8 terabytes, but still it was off for like $120 on Amazon a couple of weeks ago. I was like, well, I'd be insane not to pick it up. So, especially, I already transferred over all my games. I'm just waiting to get these consoles. So just very excited.
With these new hard drive, and then with these new hard drives coming out, you're going to see the price drop for all these disk drives.
See, I've been staring at those new hard drives, and I still haven't got myself to want to pull the trigger on one. $220.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
The only reason why I did it personally was because I do automatic payment, and Best Buy is the one. Like I always do. I always get something from Best Buy. So when I come to a zero balance, I'll get headphones, or I'll get. In this case, I paid off my Cyberpunk console, and I was down to zero. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get these 2, and then I'll forget about it for a while. I'll do $75 a month, in
0% interest is great.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Best Buy is great, bro.
I can agree with that tactic. See, for me, I just don't know if I want to pay full price or wait till they're like 170, like 50
They'll
bucks
come
off.
down.
Right.
They'll come down fast. I'd say in the next 2-3 months after launch, they'll be at 200, and then I would say 6 months, like you said, once you'll be able to snag a deal for 170. Plus, they're also, as Jason Ronald pointed out, they're having other manufacturers doing this. It's not just Seagate, so the competition is going to drive it down.
Right. Now, skimming through the intros here, Tim, hey, it's great to see you on this week, buddy. How you been the past week?
Good. I've been playing Star Wars. It's a little late to the party, but Star Wars Fallen Jedi, and I'm really nice. Yeah, Fallen Order. It's very good. Very impressed with it. But like as Shock said, I'm dealing with these load times, and I'm hearing it's at a 60 locked on X. So I'm kind of, I might play it a little bit more. I'm halfway through, but definitely going to probably finish it on the X, getting to the point where I'm ready to put these next gen consoles and get them going.
Yeah, terrific. Yeah, definitely know what you mean there, pal. Going down the list further, Megatron, buddy. I know you're usually busy during the week, but did you get into any gaming?
Just basically some Destiny 2, trying to level up as much as I can before Beyond Light expansion. Other than that, I've been playing something that's on Game Pass called The Tourist, which is pretty cool. Kind of I don't know what you call it, indie adventure, something, kind of a chill game, man. Go check it out. I just started playing it, but other than that, man, I'm just hanging out, ready to start the show, and looking forward to these new consoles. That's it. That's what's been on my mind. These new consoles, and how many more sleeps we got left? 9, 10. So looking forward to that.
Totally. And we'll round this out with Jeremy here, but I'm just gonna get down with the nitty gritty. Jeremy, who do you piss off the past week?
Oh my!
Nobody, man. I'm a saint. I haven't been I'm on the Shockley boat here. I haven't been gaming on my X. I'm waiting for my Series X to play, so I've been dabbing in the Oculus Quest 2, which is amazing. I'll be getting my PC here shortly too. My new rig. So I'm looking for a monitor, a nice monitor. So thanks for the link. Mm-hmm. I'm probably gonna go with that widescreen that you sent me. So
the curved widescreen monitor. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
My boss has one of those at work. That thing is freaking awesome.
Sweet. That's good to hear. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I do recommend you guys picking up that Oculus Quest 2. I have the 262, I think it's 268 or 265, I forget. Anyway, I did buy the kids one. It's the 64 megabyte one, and that's going to run you about $300. So it's just it's a great entry into VR for sure.
All right.
I just want to know how Half-Life plays on that thing, man. That's the one game that really wants to pull me into getting it. If it runs on it, if it's strong enough, and
you just have to have the cable for the to hook it up to your PC. It's one cable, that's all it is, and you just hook it up, and if you have it on Steam already, it'll work.
So yeah, for me, my game on that would be Vader Immortal. Now all of a sudden the Oculus is on my radar at $300, and I feel like I'm going to spend $300 just to play Vader Immortal.
Now, I'm telling you right now, you buy it in series parts. So it's the first series of the game is $10, and there's 3 parts to that. I'm telling you right now, since you're on, it's an amazing experience.
I'm pretty sure
it feels like you're in a Star Wars game. It really does.
Well, I'm saying now what I'm wanting to do. Does it feel like you're Darth Vader from Rogue One? I'm sorry, but I don't care what anybody says, but that scene at the end of Rogue One where you see when you see Darth Vader kick on that lightsaber and just basically wreck that entire hallway. Oh my God, that was freaking awesome. I'm like, if only Darth Vader could have been that through the entire series. I mean, just like lifting people up and just crushing them into the ceiling. I was just like, dude, that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, easily one of the most memorable parts of that movie was right at the end there.
Oh, dude, I loved that. When you see them all just chilling in the darkness and you see him kick that red lightsaber on, you're just like, oh, It's about to go down and it's about to get rough.
And VR is it's amazing. The different kinds of experiences that you have playing VR. And the same goes for that Star Wars game. Just opening a door is freaking amazing in that game. So when you take into consideration the fact that you do have a lightsaber in the game, you do have force powers, and it's very, very, the gameplay is excellent.
So
it's the ultimate Star Wars game to me, in my opinion.
Since you're into the Oculus thing, I would say go check out Squadrons.
Yep.
All right.
Like I mean, like to be able to be because I've done a VR where you're in the cockpit, not with Star Wars, but on a different one on a PS4. But I mean, to be able to look around the cockpit and actually get the detail and just to look out that window. I mean, I really think that's going to be an experience you'd love, especially in VR.
Yeah.
All right, good to know. Now, before we get into the topics, just a reminder to all of you listening in, if you could share this show out on social media, that would be really great. And as well, don't forget to check us out on various podcasting platforms. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many more. Give us a sub if you like your TXR on the go. All right, fellas, we will move on and on our way to the first topic of the evening. And there's been a significant departure at an Xbox first-party studio. According to Bloomberg earlier this week, Chris Lee, the studio head of FPS Development, has resigned from his role at 343 Industries, which is kind of a surprise considering we have the Xbox Series X consoles launching next week, and Halo Infinite is presumably coming out sometime next year. I'm really curious to hear what everyone's thoughts are on the matter, but I'm going to go over to our resident downer, Jeremy. Should we be concerned when we see something like this, a big studio personality leave? Because, remember, this was supposed to be a next-gen launch title, a week from now?
Yeah, I mean, should you be concerned? No. But at the same time, there's an extreme amount of pressure that goes into making these huge franchises for sure. In a lot of ways, the game it shapes in the direction of, the Halo franchise, whether it's going to be relevant really in today's market. I mean, you have games like oh my God, Apex, you have Fortnite, and then these games have just taken over the scene. And yes, the Halo game's a little bit different, but for those of you who understand how games are put together, games are a lot like puzzles. It's a jumbled mess until really you get those pieces together. And I think people think that there's the more developers you have in the studio, the better, but that's not always the case. That could be where the disconnect is here. I have no idea. It's just an opinion, but imagine trying to bring that puzzle together with over 1,000 people, So, and I think 343 has 1,200 people working on the game right now. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, they were up to 1,200 with contractors, but I think that was to push for the. Right. For the launch, but they still have a very large number of people working on it.
So with that, you have developmental differences, you have communication breakdowns. Now imagine this during the pandemic. I think it's part of the reason why I believe Halo Infinite is going to be delayed until Q1 of 2022. I know that might be disappointing to fans, but I do think it's going to get delayed. There's just too much riding on the franchise right now. And I think Halo fans, they shouldn't be worried until they have the final product in their hands. I'm curious to see exactly how the story elements are going to be played out. I'm curious to see what kind of different variety, the variety in just the whole Halo universe that they're going to take, what kind of turns they're going to take. And I want to see different gameplay elements in it. And I do want that power of my Series X to shine through in this game. That's what I want. So, but as far as I know there was some say with that the Halo Infinite color fiasco, which people really you can see people are getting upset just because of they were changing certain aspects of the customization with the armor and the different color schemes, and people love this franchise. And if you try to ruin a good thing, people are very protective of it. So, is the Halo reputation damaged? I don't think it's damaged until we get
the color aspect. Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. People are upset.
People were flipping out because of their freaking armor being the customization in the armor.
They're flipping out because it's microtransactions.
Right.
All of a sudden, you say the word microtransaction, a game is crap. Like I'm just saying, like this is
what was your question?
That's what my question is. Just because a game has microtransactions, it's automatically bad?
Well, it's not so much that it has microtransactions. It's that it wasn't something that a lot of fans and people thought that needed to be changed for the game.
Right.
Because everybody thought that, just like every other Halo game, you'd be able just to, again, pick your own unique starting primary, secondary colors. And it was just something that never needed to be addressed. I mean, 343 had screwed up, what was it, the badge designs, the emblem designs back in Halo 5 Guardians. They actually had to go back a couple of months and redo the entire system because they had a similar
people
system.
Flipped out.
Yeah.
So I could see on that. It's just, for me, at least some of the stuff I read, it seemed like more people were up in arms over the fact that they were creating a system for microtransactions. Like, I don't think, like, honestly, I understand where people get in arms, the true fans that don't want their game to change. But I really do think, regretfully, that there is a very small, loud minority of people that are making a bigger deal over the fact of microtransactions. And I guess I'm just one of these people that's like, microtransactions are here to stay. So at this point, if you want to keep yelling about them.
Every single game now, whether or not they like it or not, has some sort of microtransactions.
Okay, then boost the cost of games to $100 a copy, and then problem solved. People can have whatever the hell they want at amazing, very large prices. I'm sorry. And I work in an industry where we have to use tactics like this. I have to basically take an item that I buy for $1 and sell it for $4 because I got to keep the item that cost me $150 at $200. So I'm going to make $50 on my $150 item, but I'm going to make $3 on my dollar item. So that's what I was saying. You have to basically balance this whole system here.
You're 100% correct, because without these microtransactions, these games would cost $100 easy. And there's a place for microtransactions in this world. Are you gonna like it?
I don't believe in play to win. I will stay on that.
Absolutely
Cosmetic, DLC, but play to win, hell no.
Well, keep in mind they said no loot boxes, so no rec packs are coming back.
Well,
that's
they also said all the unlockables are also you're able to grind them out. If you're willing to play the game and put the time needed into that to get your free items, cool. But like, look at somebody like me or Downer or other people that like work very long hours, and sometimes we don't have the time to put into that game to get that really cool skin. And hell yeah, I'm gonna throw my $10 down so I can look good.
Just give me a package, right? Where like when I buy my collector's editions, like with Gears, for instance, I had a problem with buying the collector's edition. I remember when you bought it, you unlocked everything. Now, or like an Ultimate Edition or something, like a Forza or something like that, that whole controversy. Now you get these smaller little packages and something's left out. Well, I just spent all this money on this. I expected everything. I spent a premium on it. That's kind of where I want. I want to be able to buy something, even if it's cosmetics. And just buy.
And I agree on the fact that if you're going to spend the money on a collector's edition, you're going to have exclusive content tied to that. Because if you're dishing out that amount of money and you want to feel like it's special, and I think part of that is, either it's download content or, just certain weapons that you may get in the game. I think having that for a legendary or collector's edition is a good thing.
Now, what about releasing that content? We'll use Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, for example. When you bought the deluxe version of that game, or what was the highest version they had of that game outside of the collector's edition, you would get the yellow lightsaber and some other stuff. And they just came out and said that they were going to make that now available to people that didn't have those editions of the game because it's been so long.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that if it's like a lengthy period of time, say like 6 months or a year. Nah, let's do a year. Because by then, those weapons are you've already had those weapons and played with them enough.
I think the issue is that when 343 did this blog post, they were talking about obviously their new 7-layer coding system, which is all well and good. I really like that they were opening up about this stuff. The issue is that, well, we don't know what we're gonna have as like base colors, for example. Like they showed off a color, they called it Monarch, but it was just purple. So a lot of people are kind of scared that a lot of the base colors are going to be locked off, and they haven't really gone into a lot of detail explaining this.
People also go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to say I'm dealing with this right now in ESO. In ESO, you have shaders that you can use to color your armors, and your armors are all. Each armor piece has like you could put like 2 or 3 different shaders. Like you can make stuff look really cool, but for starters, to put shaders on like custom armor, you need to be part of ESO Plus to even put the shaders on them. And also the shaders are locked behind achievements, or you have to pay for some of these shaders.
Wow. Yeah. Well, listen, I think, at the subject, at the core of it, I think Chris Lee was, in my opinion, now I've heard some things behind the scenes that I really can't talk about, or I was told not to talk about, but I kind of feel Chris got a raw deal, but I thought that, but then I heard that there was stuff that, was definitely a reason for him to be moved out. Everyone's really quiet on Halo as far as like insider stuff or people talking behind the scenes. I'm officially worried about the game, to be honest. I don't know what happened here. I watched the demo or watched the gameplay again. It looks good. I just don't think it's going to come in, and no matter when it comes out, I don't think it's going to come in and impress us the way we want to be impressed graphically. I think it'll be a very fun game to play. I think it's going to be a game that the gameplay is excellent. But with the wow factor that we all want, or we wanted that next step generation feel, I don't think that's going to happen here. Unfortunately, I just feel that there's a lot of problems here. I feel that Bonnie she mismanaged a lot here, and she should be taken to task. And if it comes out and it doesn't do well, and it falls on its face, and it is what I'm suspecting that it could be, there has to be people that have to be accountable here.
Yep.
And I love the people at Xbox, and but I'm a consumer and I'm real here. I'm a huge Halo fan. This is the game that brought me to Xbox to be as big as Xbox fan as I am, and as you know, it's a freaking huge Xbox fan. Yep. But if you're gonna not have that up to a certain standard, and you're gonna miss that standard, that is a complete mismanagement mess. You know what I mean? It's unacceptable, yeah. and that's the way I'm feeling it's going now. And I didn't always feel that way. You've heard me, but like, it's just they gotta show something or do something to make me think otherwise. I mean, even the things that we're talking about, like the shaders and when they showed those figures, that doesn't inspire me. It's not inspiring.
It looked unfinished.
It was yeah, and I don't, at this point, it's like, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. At this point, they're going to have to prove some stuff, and I think they have a lot.
What do you guys think they would have to do though to really just wake us back up?
Show us something that makes us say, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to have that though. I think it's going to be, yeah, it's cool, but that looks like it's last gen. I don't think you're going to get that awe aspect that I think that we all wanted and thought we were going to get from Halo, unfortunately.
Right.
Now, some of the hiccup had to do with, let's say graphically, because they still have to work with current gen consoles. You think that's still a thing, but you look at something like what Watch Dogs is doing. It looks phenomenal.
I just think that they took an art style that was gonna give you the Halo 1, 2, 3 feel, but the problem is that when they went with that route, you're kind of getting an older generation feel. Mm-hmm. I mean, they probably were better off sticking with Halo 5 graphics and just bolstering it up.
And this is the problem that they face right now. Number one is it's in too far of development where they can't just, okay, let's start over, let's do it over again. They've dumped way too much money. They have way too many assets already assigned to this game. They can't just scrap it over. So I think
why would they need to scrap it over though?
Well,
because the
maybe they're really concerned about the game, but they're at the point of no return right now.
So
look better though.
If I could come out and say,
the gameplay part looks great.
If we're gonna tear down Halo, tear down Halo for the way a game looks, I don't want to see any AAA title like Borderlands 3 or Borderlands like them ever. I don't want to see cell shaded anything ever again. Basically, this is basically saying that a game developer has no control over the art style or direction of their product. Like, I'm sorry, at the end of the day,
I just think it's a tale of two worlds, Centurion. You got Go ahead.
I was to say, this is where people need to realize you ain't building Halo. You are nothing more than the end consumer. So yes, your dollar matters, but at the end of the day, you're not the person grinding that game out for 8 to 15 hours a day, depending on what needs to be done. Also, that's their product. If they want to make that thing look like a black and white film, let them do that, and they can kind of get the repercussions from that. But never at any time am I going to tell any game developer this is the way it needs to look. This is the way it needs to play. This is what needed.
But you still got to appeal to the core fans. I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but you make that shit black and white. I don't think they're going to go down. But this is where also needs to feel. This is where people need to realize there's actually two different cores for fans. There's the Bungie core, and then there's the 343 core.
Yeah.
And that's where we're having this back and forth of, we want it like Bungie, but we want it like 343. Oh, but we want this like Bungie. Oh, make it like 343 over here.
That's why you have your foundation you build on top of it. Like Jeremy said earlier when you started, you were saying, well, how's it going to be compared to today's games? You keep what you have in the core, you expand on it some, and you build different modes. And that's how you get across stuff like that. I think you build that bridge.
Here's a good example of a game where they took the original core. And they let's look at Mass Effect. Mm-hmm. The very first Mass Effect game is literally a fan game. You have to be a fan of Mass Effect to truly play that game, because it does not play anything like 2 or 3. Because they saw the core that they had, and they took in what people suggested, and they made some changes, and they actually made the game better. So
they do with all games now.
That's a personal opinion though, because there's people that said they missed the part 1 aspect, the RPG elements, the world, just the world building and everything to that. So they missed those things.
Well, listen, it's inevitable. You're not going to make everyone happy. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're going to have to come to terms to. But when I hear like Phil and he's asked about it, and his answer is, I played it last week and it was okay. I want to hear him say, I played it last week and wow, man, we're really in for it. Like, this is coming. I don't think that they have the confidence in the game that they should have. And two, I don't like when I heard like Phil talk about that, I'm waiting for him to say, the fans are really going to be happy. And I'm getting a Crackdown 3 feel from what's going on, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. But
I could see Tim's thing saying that there's some management issues, purely because look at the situation of the fact that now, if you read the articles, we now have multiplayer split in one half, and they've got their lead director. We now have the single player campaign split in their half with their lead director.
Launching at different times.
And it actually, like, rather than having one manager of the entire project controlling everything, that manager has now stepped back, because the two managers, they basically, rather than making one person do one job, they decided to choose 2 people to do this job and split it in half, which is why they had him stand back, because I'm pretty sure that dude was just standing around with his hands in his pockets, twiddling his thumbs with nothing to do.
Well, they originally had Josh Holmes. He left. He was the multiplayer portion. And then they had the creative director. I think his name was Tim Longo or something.
Yeah,
and then Chris Lee took over for him. And now, Joe Staten's taking over for them. You got a lot of hands in this. You got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, they even had Olsen. Who was it? Olsen left too, like around the same time as
she
Tim
was only
Longo.
there though for like 2 months, I think. But
so, with what Tim Dog was just saying, holy cow, just had a brain lapse. I was just.
I was saying, I kind of interrupted you, but you were saying like. How people had the split management teams, which, they do. They have a lot of people. Listen, there's split management, and there's a ton of people. There's also a ton of contractors that are working on
and now, the guy, that's what I was going to say. The guy they have in charge of the multiplayer helped kind of grow the multiplayer for Gears 5. Mm-hmm. I'll be up front. I talked to Stubbsy all the time, and he's a big Gears fan, and there from talking to him, because he keeps up with Gears, there's definitely a lot of back and forth on what people prefer and don't prefer on what Gears 5 has created in the multiplayer.
Some people love it or hate it.
But because we've got the same guy from Gears 5 multiplayer doing Halo multiplayer, we're going to see some of the similar techniques that they used over there. And they even said in one of the articles, they're using some company or some kind of consultant to basically help study people's spending habits to basically keep them coming back to the Halo Infinite multiplayer.
Right.
Well, I think they've also turned around Gears multiplayer quite a bit since a year ago, where people are actually enjoying it a lot more than at launch, so.
A lot of people are still playing, or seems that a lot of people are playing it.
Well, obviously they're playing it. We've got Dave Bautista getting ready to play Marcus Phoenix. I mean, like, I know there's some controversy behind that, but you know what? That's another thing that's real. That's what I love about Xbox, is they are willing to help anybody kind of explore their imagination through any kind of a game. Like, even look at Dave Bautista. Everybody's like, oh, it's Dave Bautista. Dude, we're talking about a guy who's a wrestler who had a dream to play Marcus Phoenix in an actor role.
Cool,
but I think that's really cool that Microsoft actually was like, hey, you know what? Let's live that dream. Just because you're not in Hollywood and you're not on the big screen doing it, let's do it in Gears. Let's do it in the actual Gears game.
So when I initially
Which is weird because he is in Hollywood. He's an Avenger, or like one of the.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love Dave. I watch wrestling. I love Dave Bautista, but you want me to be absolutely upfront with you? I love Dave Bautista more as a James Bond villain than I did as an Avenger.
When I first
Did you see him in James Bond?
He's my least favorite.
Guys, when I first initially saw Halo Infinite, when they revealed it back in July, I was actually one of the few who stuck up for it. I kind of really enjoyed like the actual some of the gameplay segments, and I liked the art style. I was like really like it really brought me back. I was like, oh my gosh, they actually listened, which was great. And the enemy, like the main enemy, the villain that they have for the game, actually looks really interesting, and I really want to learn more. But yeah, I mean, I also can't say that was the best thing I ever saw, because I was kind of deflated in a way, because I'm like, oh, this is an Xbox Series X launch title. It doesn't really look up to snuff, even though I really liked how the enemies looked, Master Chief, and the environments. I kind of, I have to, make that point.
I felt the same way, yeah.
But at the same...
The graphics. It was the graphics. Like, all the complaints that I heard was the graphics. Everyone's complaining about the way the game looks.
The way it loaded, the way it was performing.
Touch that up some.
I think the gameplay aspect, the core gameplay aspect,
fantastic.
Most of the hardcore Halo fans were like, oh, this looks great. I mean, if you go back and look at Gears 4 multiplayer beta, I was like, what's going on here? This must be in trouble, because this looks like garbage. But when it released, it was just missing all the, the polish.
Yeah, so. One of the things that I've talked about this on other shows here, but one of the things I think that Xbox definitely benefits from, and Halo benefits, is with the signing of Bethesda. there's a lot of pressure off of Halo. I felt like Halo had so much pressure on it. And now it doesn't, especially if you have like 2 releases, Starfield and possibly Wolfenstein in 2021. You really can be strategic with Halo, and you can give them the amount of time. I just think that, I think that they have to come to terms with, when they're going to show it, how they're going to release it again. And, listen, I just hope the next time we see it, we're all, in agreement that looks awesome. I don't think that it's gonna say it's gonna be what, that next gen moment. I think that next gen moment could be Starfield, it could be Fable, it could be Hellblade 2. But it's gonna come. That's definitely gonna come, especially when you have as much talent and studios as Xbox has. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. But I just don't think Halo is going to be that one. I think it's going to be a highly rated game, but it's not going to be a mega hit. It's going to it'll be like an 83 Metacritic. Everyone says it's fun. Multiplayer might be really popular. It's free to play. It'll have a ton of players. It'll make money, but I just think that for what the expectations were, it's not going to hit that. It's not going to. I think with
their future updates, though, you'll see.
That's a very good point.
Look at Demon's Souls. It's like one of the only first-party games that's supposed to be an exclusive as far as we know. But they said it. The devs said it themselves. There is no ray tracing in the game at all.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the one, but Spider-Man has it and it's cross-gen.
Right.
So, yeah. I think the fact that we're even going out and saying it's going to be 83, 84 Metacritic is a bit too much right now. Let's give them the time to work on the game. I still think the game's going to come out Q1 of 2022. And who knows, maybe that year is going to get them the time and the money.
You're going
and
into
the
2022? Jesus Christ.
I think it's going to be
what's
released.
November 21, March 22. Like,
yeah, I think it's going to be released Q1 2022. I really do.
So, like, you're talking March 2022. Oh, man.
Especially if Starfield does come next year, then yeah, they got some breathing room.
Yeah, I don't see it. I see the biggest hang up of everybody's the criticism was just the way the game looked, character design, like
But you don't need to go back to the drawing
polish
for that.
No, you're not going to change the story around, are you? I mean, so
just even in screenshots, the way it looked when you took screenshots was very bad. Craig, and then they had that one, where it has like all the brutes and everyone and I even somebody on Twitter was like, they showed me that, and I'm like, yeah, well, anybody can take a bad screenshot, and then people are like, hey, Tim, that's from the official 343 site. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hopeful, guys. I really don't want to, crap on Halo. I'm a huge Halo fan, but, I have to call out some concerns when they are present, obviously. And I guess my other concern would be I just hope it's not split up because, again, going back to Halo 5 Guardians, they had left out Forge at launch, and even Firefight came a long way down. So I really hope that we do get a complete product whenever it does launch. I know they talked about, it was mentioned earlier, splitting up the multiplayer. Possibly
that's bad. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, unlike Naughty Dog, who did split it up.
Well, Naughty Dog, who said they were going to do it, never did it. They said there was going to be
at some point. Who knows?
I don't know.
If I could just cap this off with, why are we worried about Halo Infinite? From that photo on Halo's Instagram account, Master Chief is ready. Master Chief is ready.
Well, they did. They did have some new stuff that they did show today, or I think Hyper. I can't remember his full name, but he's a Halo YouTuber, and it definitely looked better. Like they had the brute design, and they had the elites and stuff like that. It looked pretty cool. So who knows? I just really want it to be the game that wowed me from what brought me to Xbox. I mean, this is this is their biggest franchise. It is my favorite franchise in gaming by far.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, Tim, obviously, I know you can't talk about a lot of things, but do you foresee possibly another big studio departure in the near future?
What do you mean departure? Like another person leaving?
Yeah, let's say Frankie or something.
Well, I know that I think O'Connor's. I think everyone's safe at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it depends on. I honestly feel like Jeremy is going to be possibly. I don't think 2022. I think it's going to be 2021. But they're going to take their time and, like with the whole thing with Chris, he only had a real year under his belt, but. So that's not really fair, but I did hear some of the stuff, that could have, been warranted. I don't feel like we're going to get another one of these. If we do, then you're going to talk about, late 2022. But I don't think they're going to switch courses. I think that they have an idea of when they want to launch or launch, that they're going to try to get to. And Joe's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just going to be a real rocky development, story and tale. And unfortunately, I was wrong about it. I thought that they would be able to get it done. I had people saying it was going to come in hot, but it obviously that multiplayer reaction, and I mean the game demo and what that reaction. Scared. It's definitely scared Xbox, I think, and made them reevaluate. And I guess looking back, rightfully so. I mean, I was one of the people who said that, I wasn't. I was like you. I thought I liked some of the stuff that I saw. I thought the gameplay was so cool. I watched it in 4K on the OLED. Definitely looks good, but again, people are looking for something that wows them, and
Right.
kind of like what Gears does.
Mm-hmm.
Gears does that. You look at Gears and you're like, the first time you see it, you're like, holy shit, you didn't get that feeling. And I think Megatron and everyone, kind of felt the same way. Mm-hmm. Again, who knows? They're gonna have a lot of time. If they show us another presentation, they could shut us all up and say, you know what? They could show ray tracing, didn't have ray tracing. But it was a huge miss, because as good as the launch has been for Xbox, and they kick Sony's ass, I feel, in a lot of aspects. The one thing that they thought they had for granted was Halo, and that's the one thing that took them for a ride. And the one thing that Sony has over Xbox now, this at the start of this gen, is they have that next generation games, and they have games at launch, where if they had Halo at launch and you had the multiplayer and the single player,
it'd be a different story.
It'd be a different story, and it was in a good condition. Xbox would have hit it out of the world, but they still have question marks. And again, I look at it, and you have to take in, you're talking about a studio of 500 people too. So you got to have accountability here. You can't just say, we're a family all the time. You got to produce.
Right. And I try to be the white pill when it comes to Halo and all that, but go ahead, Shock.
Phil made the point, I'm going to sell out of, Xbox is pretty much going to probably sell out of its inventory anyway. So if Halo drops, sometime next year,
it's true.
You might find a lull, and then you have the Bethesda games. Bethesda's going to have something big launching that they would have had planned as a big publisher, whether that's Starfield or one of their other games. So they're going to have games. They're going to have first-party games coming out. Some firepower to keep it the momentum going, but.
Yeah.
Well, you are right. It is all going to be sold out. I'm hearing that Xbox is span their distribution globally. Sony has definitely stuffed the North America. I mean, Sony's gonna win the MPDs for the first couple of months, because they put most of their inventory in the number one market, North America, and they're smart to do that because they know that the demand globally, no matter what Xbox does, it's not even come close. They're going to sell wherever they want globally. North America is a real place for competition, and Sony's smart for doing that. And it'll be interesting though. But these consoles are going to be all sold out, all over the place for a while, I think.
So let me ask you this question, Tim. Do you think we're going to get a couple of surprises come launch day from Xbox?
I would hope that they would do something like that, like
gameplay.
I talked about this before. It takes a developer 3 weeks, supposedly, all hands on deck. You cut the development cycle off, meaning that when you take the 3 weeks, you're not adding to your development, so you're delaying your development cycle a month to do a demo or to show something where you basically can show off. So let's take the Hellblade. That took about 3 weeks, and that's not just 2 people. That's everyone. From what I've heard, and this is what I've been told, from reliable people. So, in my opinion, like when you got Bethesda last month, that gives them a ability to say, "Hey, Compulsion. Can you show us a game or can you do us a demo?" I heard Compulsion recently showed Phil something and he was very impressed. Or you say, "Hey, what's in development or what can we show off?" And I would show that the day before they launch. That would be that Monday. I think it's Monday. When is Xbox launching on a Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So that Monday,
I would spill it. What's happening November 9th?
I have no idea, but that's like, if that's the case, like November 9th would be a perfect spot where you show a demo Hellblade 2 gameplay. Exactly. You just show that. And, listen, if Xbox was 15 studios and they were pushing, but now they're 23 studios, you could tell a studio, say, "Hey, take a month, get us a demo, get us ready for launch." So if Xbox doesn't do that, and I suspect they won't, to me, that's a miss. That's not a smart thing. I think that they should show something where people can point to and say, "Hey, that's our next gen. That's coming." It's seeing is believing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And don't forget, we also have the Video Game Awards as well. But
can I add something?
Yes, go
ahead.
Can
I add something real quick? For me, what comes to mind, at least with this whole situation with Halo, Microsoft has been transparent to a point. Obviously, we're not going to invite people in to hear all the skeletons in the closet over at 343. But I feel like Microsoft has been extremely transparent with its fans and the people who want to invest in the ecosystem versus what we got going on over on their competitors' market, where they pretty much ran games as console launch exclusives. And then finally they come out and through some shady back internet post, they basically let everybody know that these games are going to be cross-generation. And I'm just saying, like, why the hell are people not up in arms over the fact that Sony basically blatantly fooled and lied to you, and Microsoft is over here trying to choose the different avenue of like, hey, it's not the best thing, but let's at least kind of tell you a little bit of what's going on, and they're being burned at the stake for it. But meanwhile, Sony over here with their shady, like, shell game of, is this game going to be cross-platform or is it going to be exclusive? You'll never know. It's like, come on, hold the same energy.
PS5,
they don't.
Right?
Well, listen,
sorry, it feels like it should be a game show. Is this game going to be on PS5 only?
I mean, listen, you look at the backwards compatibility. And you look at, even some of the Digital Foundry guys, which do a great job. But I do feel like there's intimidation there, and people are afraid to fully go after Microsoft. Sony. But when it comes to Microsoft, you got freaking Ryan McCaffrey leading the way, saying, what's going on here, and a lot of times you get Phil to even answer the backlash where Ubisoft can come out and say that these 5 games are not backwards compatibility, and then that's different from what Sony says. But there's nobody really pushing that envelope, and saying, well, where's the answers here? Or just overall, there's always a lack of, critical, being critical on somebody with Sony. Whereas Microsoft, it's like, they get criticized. They didn't have criticized for having an option for power saving.
I want to know the details on why Destruction All Stars got delayed. I was hanging on that game.
But I listen. I just think that there's definitely Microsoft has to keep doing what they're doing, and I think Jim Ryan will just keep making mistakes, and then sometimes maybe that they will, go and have the same type of energy. We're going to go into a topic I think further on, RDNA 2, where I'll talk about that too, because I feel even with that subject, that's kind of a big deal, and you don't even have any kind of media covering it, and that's because basically the media doesn't understand it, and or because Microsoft holds as an advantage.
Right. To close this topic off, I think these journalists and personalities don't go after Sony for one reason. It's because they'd be non-existent if it weren't for Sony.
They're more popular because they're popular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't want to piss off subscribers and stuff.
Exactly.
Now, we got a $49.99 $50 super chat from Peter Sark. He says, "Keep up the great work, fellas." Oh, thank you very much, Peter. We appreciate the donation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete. Great guy. He just did an unboxing of the Baby Yoda, which is awesome. You guys need to go check out his channel, man.
He should have got an Xbox. It's great.
Yeah,
he deserves it.
Tim, you should have got an Xbox or even a fridge.
A fridge. Maybe a fridge.
But Aaron said he tweeted that out with the mini fridges. I hope he does that. I definitely jump on a couple.
And I told Aaron, I says it's a no-go unless it has xCloud on it.
Right.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that, man.
X-Fridge.
Hey, listen, for me, Halo is coming out. Halo is coming out this year. We're going to end things real quick with this topic, but like Halo, I think to me is coming out
next year,
third quarter. I'm sorry, next year, no later than the third quarter.
I think that it'll time it for the Halo Combat Evolved anniversary, so probably November. That's just me.
Smart, yeah.
But
me too. I'm in November too.
I think they could do a lot with marketing that way too. But hey,
and a whole year.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
A whole year of development. I mean, they could have everything, like you said, that they don't have to have firefight and all Forge and all that stuff. They could have that all ready at launch. Just make people go crazy.
Yeah. But guys, we will transition to our next topic. And recently, as Tim Dog was stating, AMD had a presentation detailing their GPU, including RDNA 2 and its capabilities. Now, soon after, Microsoft came out with a blog post by Andrew Goosen and Jason Ronald, stating that Xbox Series X is the only next-gen console with full RDNA features and capabilities, such as mesh shading and variable rate shading, amongst other things. I guess Xbox couldn't say anything about this until AMD lifted the lid on it. Now, Tim, of course, I'll start off with you on this one. Does this feature set give the Xbox Series X an advantage over the PlayStation 5? Because I don't think Sony has really come out about this kind of a feature set yet.
Now, Tim, before we get started, what the hell is the difference between full RDNA 2 as opposed to what Sony has? I have no idea.
All right. So the deal is full RDNA 2 is Xbox, and I knew this, and I had said this on different podcasts in the year. Xbox waited for the full set of hardware for full RDNA, and what that means is, take an example for VRS. You actually have to have hardware that you need to have that's built into on the SoC, which is a system on chip. So you have to have that built in hardware wise. That's where when you hear people saying, well, Sony has their own custom solution. The fact is that whatever that custom solution is never going to be what Xbox has, is because Xbox actually has hardware capabilities, whether it's for VRS or whether it's mesh shaders. I think Alex from Digital Foundry talked about that, how on the front side there could be mesh shaders built in. So it's a hardware that's basically built in, and Xbox waited for it, and it put Xbox a little bit of a disadvantage because the dev kits were late. As you know, you see the complaints about Xbox ray tracing. Where is it? Why is it only on one game? And the fact is that they were behind with this because they specifically waited for these features so that they can have them for future use. And their XDK or their GDK, where they make the drivers and everything, I heard this from multiple sources that knew, were behind, and they're still behind. Their tool sets are still behind Sony because they waited for this specific set of hardware capability and software that Xbox is going to have, such as VRS, which is a method where, this is layman terms, and I'm not really an expert on it as well, but basically it focuses pixels on one port of a screen, and you could get optimizations up to 15 to 20% by using this method. And, stuff like that, VRS or machine learning, even though they didn't mention that, where you could have super resolution for like DLSS, what NVIDIA supports. Basically it's like 1440k, but it's built up, it looks like 4k. It's amazing. The stream, the feedback, and these feature sets that they have, Sony does not have them because they are not hardware based. These things are hardware based, and people are talking about RDNA 3 and all this bullshit. The fact is that Xbox named what they named. They said what they said because they know they have an advantage. How much of an advantage it will be, that'll be up for developers to take advantage of. There's going to be games, though, that come out that utilize VRS, and Xbox can have an advantage because they're going to get...
PlayStation's ray tracing brute forced?
No, it's supposedly hardware. Well, no, it is hardware based. They used, I believe, another company to help them build it, but Xbox is.
But it's not integrated silicone on the board. I don't
know that I heard it's hardware based, but this is some people tell me no. Like you said, it's software based. Cherney said that there is a hardware element, so that they did build it on the silicone. So I'm gonna go with him saying that. But they don't use what Xbox is using. Xbox uses DirectX.
That's what I was gonna try to ask you. Is so I know it's like RDNA 2, and then it's RDNA 2 Plus. And that is what PlayStation uses is RDNA 2 and
RDNA 1 Plus.
They were saying it's like 1.5 or whatever, but that's why they were saying that plus
it doesn't have all the
machine learning part of it.
Right.
That plus means it's able to use the cloud.
Right, or they could use certain things like DLSS. So the machine learning wasn't mentioned. What was mentioned was the streaming feedback, the VRS, and there was a couple of other features that were mentioned. There was 4 hardware ray tracing, which Sony does have, but the big one is, from what I've heard, is VRS. And the big thing is that it is hardware built. You need hardware for it. So Xbox waited for that hardware for AMD. And once they got it, they obviously went in and they locked in to build the console. But
that's where I'm curious on how this is going to happen in the long term with Sony using that RDNA 1 Plus or 1.5, whatever you want to call it, and the fact that the GPU and the CPU actually have to share power and borrow power from each other, where Xbox doesn't do that. And we all know ray tracing is a very heavy power consumer.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, well, what happens when ray tracing kicks in on the PS5 and the GPU is basically telling the CPU like, hey, I know you need this power, but I'm going to take it for ray tracing.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that stuff is going to play out. I suspect probably you have lower resolution on PlayStation 5, or you'll have for the ray tracing, it won't be full 4K. It'll be like, 1080p or stuff like that for the shadows, or, this is very technical stuff. And, my understanding is from questions I asked and from what I'm told, but, I had known for a while that they were going to announce, well, I didn't know they were going to do it like that, but I thought they were just going to tout themselves, but they went right out and they said, hey, we're the only next generation console with these features, full RDNA. And I think that people saying they're being petty about it, but no, it's a pretty big deal because people, if you watch Digital Foundry's video on VRS, and I suggest you do, that'll give you an overview and how it works. And Alex did a good job there. But, that's a method that if it is used and it takes off, you have Xbox being more powerful as it is, but now you have it using a VRS solution that's hardware accelerated or hardware based with software it's going to give them more optimization, better optimization, and it's going to result in better games.
So, Tim, the way I'm trying to look at this variable rate shading is, how you look out in the distance and you see different environments, how they're not shaded. Right. I think what variable rate shading is the further it goes out, these the pixels are going to be, detailed and more textured and shaded correctly. Am I right?
Yeah. Or what? Does. No, where you're like looking, like let's say exactly what you're talking about, but right. I think it's the other way around. Like if it's like, say like it's a mountain in the background, they will use less pixels there. Or they'll use, it's just
right. It also knows camera orientation. It basically knows it's like, okay, so there's a tree in the environment. Mm-hmm. Well, there's two trees. One the person is staring at, and the other one is behind them. I don't need to concentrate on rendering the tree behind them. We need to worry about the tree on the screen.
Right, and only when you look at it, when you turn at it. In the other way, I'm assuming the way it was developed, you had to have that asset fully built instead of having it partially built. Because, or let's say that you're turning around the corner and you're looking at something and there's, an asset that you're supposed to see. When you're behind a wall, you're not going to see that asset, or you're going to see a little bit of that asset. From what I'm understanding is that asset, the old way, would just have to be built into the system, whereas now you could just do the 10% of the asset that you see from that camera angle or from your viewpoint. And you don't have to waste resources on building the full entire asset.
Right.
Sounds
interesting.
Great. Yeah. And I guess using the hard drive, that integration too. I'm still not a tech guy because of how fast it can render. Does that have anything to do with it at all? Or
say that again?
The hard drive is part of how it's able to do this rendering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the feedback. Well, one of the things is the FSS, I think it's called, where like you could take a half a texture or 25% of a texture, and because of what it knows of the texture and I guess what it machine learned or what it understands of it, it can build the full texture in without using 100% of the power. Now, this is just my understanding of it. I'm by no means somebody who called myself a technical, expert. I have a good grasp of it, or a decent grasp of it, but I'm nowhere. I'm the stuff that I'm saying could be wrong here and there. Obviously, maybe we can get Jason Ronald or somebody who on the show that could actually answer these questions and understand it, because those are the guys that really can understand it and grasp it.
I'm not trying to be like Mr. Tech Dude either, but at least what I read on variable rate trading or what you're calling machine learning, it's kind of like a form of checkerboarding. but instead of it taking an image and splitting it into parts to create the 2160 image, it takes a low resolution image and it basically builds the pixels around it to create the 4K image. It's not splitting a pixel into 4 pieces. It's actually adding pixels to the image to create the resolution.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. That's the stuff that I've been reading too. And the DLSS, that's like super solution. Like I said, that involves machine learning. Supposedly Sony's going to have their implementation of that. And, in the case of Sony, what I would expect with VRS, they probably have a solution that they use. But again, it's not going to be what Xbox has, and it's also not hardware based. The fact that Xbox is actually using hardware and they're getting the full RDNA spec is a good thing, because obviously when you have hardware, it's always going to push it forward, or it's going to push it that much more than just straight software.
Yeah, I'm so ready. Let me see what you got. I'm so ready for these consoles, man.
I think that this stuff is gonna. I would say this stuff really, we'll start to see this stuff in year 1.5 cycle or 2. You'll see probably, definitely, you'll see Xbox, their first party be using it.
Yeah, I hope I see something. I'm still searching for a television. I don't even know. Listen, I'm torn between the C10 65-inch and the Sony 900.
Get the C10, bro.
The C10.
Telling you, bro.
I think my kids are gonna destroy that damn television.
Just set the things. You could set it. I'll help you with the settings. You could set it where it turns off, or where like the logos or the luminal, the luminance you can set lower, or you could put it in modes just like when you game, it'll go to it. You could do it where the kids. I understand that. I mean, my mom had a TV that had burn-in, and one of the reasons why was because my mom is older and she wants to be warm. Her room basically gets to in the winter 95 degrees, and she has a heater, and the heater is blowing right on the TV, and the TV is on 24/7. Of course you're going to get something that blows, but if you manage it, and I know you would, you'll be fine. Like I said, I have 5 OLEDs and I've managed all of them, and I've had 0 burn-in, no problem.
Does anybody remember plasma televisions back in the day?
I still got a plasma. I still have my Hitachi downstairs.
Oh my God, having to fire up the eraser on your plasma television. Oh crap, I got some burn-in. I got to turn on the eraser.
Yeah, for me, is the burn-in. It'll be for me from just falling asleep, because I watch movies when I fall asleep. When I'm sleeping, I'll put on a movie and I'll just do it.
Put a timer on it. That's all.
But the other half,
fall asleep? No.
But if you're watching a movie though, like Megatron, if you're watching a movie, that's fine. You're gonna find, because everything's gonna be moving on the screen. But let's say you're watching Fox News or CNN, where they have that logo and it sticks there and it doesn't move and it just stays.
Well, let me ask.
That's where you get your burn.
Jeremy, is that logo is the Fox News? Did it burn in? And then the other aspect though is just the durability, because it looks so thin, right?
You have no idea though. You have no idea it's just the TVs that you're mentioning. The OLED is just you're gonna blow you away, bro.
Durability? Are you packing your TV up with you going places?
No, because it's just my kids are upstairs in I game in my bedroom mainly, and they're up here. I got my cats up here, and they're playing around behind it, and it swivels. I got this swivel free-floating stand that my TV's sitting on, so it's always moved. And I'm thinking they're going to just crash it into the wall or something. I'm concerned. That's why I looked at the Sony, and I'm like, it's got good reviews, and it looks tougher than the OLED. I could not imagine my face if I came upstairs.
The OLEDs are really well made. I mean, that crystal on that is it's amazing, heavy. It's nice.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go then. Maybe I'll go with the C10.
When it comes to TVs, for me, it's not the screen, it's the power supply. Every TV I've ever had that's gone bad is because it's blown the power supply right out of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But you know what, guys, just to close out this topic, you know, it's just interesting. As soon as this news came out about the RDNA 2, like I saw some developers come out, for example, a very, very, you know, over the past couple of generations, pro Sony PlayStation developer Quantic Dream, their studio head David Cage had said, you know, the Series X has an advantage and it lies in its machine learning powered core shaders. So it's just interesting seeing some developers already talking very highly about all this information coming out. And I can't wait to see how these different features perform over time, you know, after launch. So I can't wait to see all the games that come out later on with, you know, and see this console take advantage of all these key features.
Invader, it's funny that we're still talking about key features in the system. Shockley could attest to this. We used to talk about, well, at least some older gamers used to talk about how, you know, the 32-bit Sega Saturn versus the PlayStation, whether or not they could do transparencies or not on the Sega Saturn. We used to talk about the same shit as we did, you know, back in the day. So it hasn't come too far.
Well, it's for us nerds, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, I'm going to move on to some other news that has been making the rounds the past week. And recently, Bethesda's Todd Howard did an interview with Game Industry Biz, and he discussed a wide range of topics, talking about how optimistic he is about Xbox Game Pass and Bethesda's history and relationship with Microsoft and so on. But I've seen a lot of people focusing on what he said regarding the Elder Scrolls 6, taking a small excerpt of what he said and just running with it, stating that, and he did say this, saying that I would agree that it is hard to imagine that, of course, Xbox, you know, just for the Elder Scrolls 6 to be exclusive on just Xbox platforms. Now, earlier in the interview, he stated, and I'm going to quote this, I can't really project where things will be, except to say we've done those sort of exercises ourselves as an independent. If you look at every Elder Scrolls game, there has been some sort of exclusivity on Xbox or with Microsoft. We've partnered with every game. Morrowind was basically a console exclusive, Oblivion was a long time exclusive, Skyrim's DLC was exclusive for a long period of time. We'll decide what makes the best sense for our audience when the time comes, and I can't really project today what that looks like. Whew, I mean, that's quite a mouthful there, but it's very detailed. Now, Centurion, I'm going to go to you first on this. What do you think of Todd Howard's comments? Are you seeing any hints here of where Elder Scrolls 6 will end up?
Well, for starters, I got to give the disclaimer that I absolutely love Todd Howard since the day he came out on stage at E3 and said, "Are you ready for some effing games?" So ever since he did that, I was like, I am a Todd Howard fan, because that right there, that is definitely get some eyes on you on stage for sure, real quick. So with this whole situation, I like how Todd Howard, like, everybody's being cryptic, but I really honestly could see these games becoming exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. And everybody's like, oh, they're talking about how there's going to be availability on all multiple platforms. Well, duh. But guess what? It's already come out through multiple sources that Xbox has flat out come out and said that they don't need PlayStation. They don't. They have xCloud. They have PC. They have Xbox. Pretty soon, as soon as xCloud becomes mainstream, everybody's going to have an Xbox in their pocket. And I liked in the one article I read, they're just like, well, Sony's just waiting to utilize what they built with the Gaikai servers back in the day. And I'm like, they're waiting? Okay, I no. Sony realizes that the streaming market has passed them. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but unless they really throw some serious money at what they got going on, no. So back on to Todd Howard. I really see these games actually being, there's probably going to be some games that do eventually bleed over to PlayStation, maybe timed exclusive, stuff like that. But those great big barn burners, those what's the blockbuster titles that everybody wants to get on their consoles, those are definitely going to probably more than likely be exclusive, at least to the Xbox ecosystem. And I don't blame them. And the Xbox ecosystem is so large that I can see why this is new territory for Todd Howard and a company like Bethesda. because for the first time in gaming, we're starting to see what some are calling what the consolidation of gaming developers. And Microsoft, like you said, Todd Howard came out and said that there's always been exclusive stuff that they've been doing with Xbox and Microsoft. And let's also just look at it right now. Let's look at Skyrim. If you go play Skyrim on a PlayStation right now, there is a night and day difference between the two titles on PlayStation and Xbox purely because of mods. Microsoft has been very open into letting Bethesda bring mods to the games and creating basically an experience that fans can manipulate and modify. And that is something PlayStation has been heavily against.
Been a big pushback on that. I think that started with Fallout 4, wasn't it?
It started with I think it started out with Fallout 4, and then it grew into Skyrim, and then some other games. And that's where,
if I'm not mistaken, though, I think they do allow mods now on the system.
They allow, but they allow mods, but it's very limited. Microsoft's rules on the mods are not as harsh as PlayStation's. The only rule that Microsoft really has for a mod is that this cannot brick a console. That's their only really rule. And basically, PlayStation just doesn't want people to have access to the source code. That basically, they're like, we don't want them to have access to the code. We don't want them to be able to make anything for PlayStation. We want it to be our sacred garden, the way it's been for years. And this is where I've always stood by. This is why Microsoft, Bethesda with Microsoft now, yes, we're going to get some exclusives. Why? Because Sony's dinosaur policy of sacred gardens is going to soon bite them in the butt. Bethesda didn't even want anything to do with PlayStation. Even if PlayStation probably had the money in their pocket and they were standing right next to Microsoft, they'd probably be like, you guys have been very resistant to the products we have built over the years. We would rather go with the guys that are going to help us grow as a company. And that is what Todd Howard put in these statements. He sees this partnership, or the fact that Microsoft has bought Bethesda ZeniMax, as a way to grow the company in a new direction and take gaming in a new direction. And he's very excited. And I was glad to see in his statements, he talked about Game Pass, on how it's absolutely asinine that some of these games have to have that $59.99 price tag on them just because that is what has become the norm. Game Pass has helped break down that barrier and finally able to put games that really shouldn't be $60 in an environment where there's value for a very small price. And this is where I like how he pointed out, like, you know, with movies and entertainment, some movies go directly to the movie theaters to make millions of dollars, while other movies go straight to television. They're made for television because they're designed for a different audience. And that is what he put out there. And, you know, these games are all designed with their particular audiences in mind. And Game Pass is going to help get some of these lower titles to these people that just don't, that, you know, there's people out there that play nothing but indies. So
but you know what, Centurion, I still see a situation where Xbox would allow Sony or even Nintendo to come out with these games a year later from from launch, because it's not going to hurt them.
So let's talk about leverage too, though.
Yeah.
Can you see PlayStation really kind of like sending somebody over to Microsoft, like, please, can we have some games from Bethesda? Well, sure. How's that Game Pass app looking on PlayStation? Like,
one way it will go.
You could use some serious leverage. You could be
that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm saying it right now. Game Pass will never be on PlayStation ever.
But here's the thing. If I was in Phil Spencer's position, I would flat out tell somebody, be like, don't even come to my office if you are not open to me putting Game Pass on your console. Because at that point, I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to have a conversation. I'll let you sit out in the lobby all day long.
Couldn't they use Game Pass just like they're doing with Apple and go through the browser? Does the PlayStation have a browser? Could they do it that way?
PlayStation has a browser, but I'm going to tell you right now, man, but there has to be some optimization involved. And I'm sorry, the PlayStation browser is a POS.
Yeah, you have to have different plugins and different,
Damn.
Like, I mean, like I don't even use the Xbox browser because like you said, plugins, stuff like that. I don't browse the internet ever on my consoles. I go straight to a computer just because sorry, but to them, people don't go buy an Xbox to go surf the internet. People don't buy a PlayStation 4 to surf the internet. They have phones and computers for that.
So back
I
when
think people underestimate.
What were you saying, Shock?
Go ahead, Shockley.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people underestimate also what xCloud is going to be. I'll just tell you, today I was in Monticello, Indiana. I know none of you know where that is. It's a small town. If you've ever heard of Indiana Beach, you might know around about where. But again, it's a small town in Indiana. They had 5G, and I was getting over 100 megabits per second. I don't get that at my house living in central Indianapolis with 5G. So I'm like, holy shit, if I'm getting this out here in the sticks, which I didn't think I'd even get 5G, like, just think about the next 3 years where 5G is going to be. And you're going to be playing at that speed. You're not going to really have any hiccups as far as lag. You're getting that quality. So I'm like, this is going to be a lot bigger, I think, than what people think. Everybody has a phone. They can just, I can just play all of these Bethesda games. I'm not going to get them on a PlayStation. I got a phone. Those super casuals are going to go that way.
All right. They don't have to
be
ask.
A huge ecosystem.
It's right there.
Yeah. But getting back to the exclusivity stuff, I look at Elder Scrolls Morrowind when it came out on the original Xbox, I believe back in 2000. Mm-hmm. That was a console exclusive. Now, I've never played. I'm not a PC gamer, so at that time, I never played PC at all. And I remember Morrowind coming out and what an amazing game it was. The things it did on a tech side for a console. And then hop along, 6 years when I believe that's when Morrowind came out on the Xbox 360. It had exclusivity rights for that for an entire year when the PlayStation version came out. And it was a lesser version at the time, even though the PlayStation 3 technology was a little bit more better. It was better than the Xbox 360, but it was harder to develop for it. But the games look and ran better on the 360. I think Xbox is in that position now to where they have the best console version of the game. And they maybe a year later the PlayStation version will come out with not the same bells and whistles that the Xbox Series X has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just interesting, all these comments, because Todd Howard's not really committing. However, I think he's hinting or slightly leaning towards that. Yeah, there might be some preferential Xbox treatment going on here, talking about, again, touching on those past deals, exclusivity, and so on. So, I mean, Microsoft wouldn't buy Bethesda just so all of these big franchises could, go over to their biggest competitors. Something's got to stay within the Xbox ecosystem. And they still haven't announced what consoles that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be going on to, or Starfield for that matter. So,
yeah. But when you look at the example, like with the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, where Xbox got that exclusivity rights for about a year, it sold tremendously on the 360 as well as the PlayStation. So I think doing that doesn't really hurt them financially, and it doesn't make it to where, it still makes you want to go out and purchase an Xbox console or use it on the PC as opposed to the PlayStation. Because I know for a fact people aren't going to wait a year to play, to play an Elder Scrolls game just so they could play it on the PlayStation. I know for a fact that's not going to happen.
So the writing is kind of on the wall. Have you seen the article that came out where a Sony, I forget which Sony executive said it, but they basically flat out pretty much said it, that Sony Sony has grown their gaming studios organically, where basically Xbox forced it by purchasing Bethesda. I'm sorry, but I heard the bitterment and animosity in his tone just from his statement. And I already know, Jim Ryan knows that yes, they're probably more likely going to become Xbox exclusives, and he's being a hater.
Yeah, that was Jim Ryan. That was rough.
He's being, sorry to interrupt you, Invader. He's being a hater because he knows that deal with ZeniMax. It's a deal breaker for a lot of people. Yeah, it's a game changer. There are people out there who, because of this deal, went from being a PlayStation fan to an Xbox fan. I guarantee it.
They're building organically, though, right? It's okay.
I know, yeah. Like we built it organically through lies and
Spider-Man organically, right?
Yeah, well, no, it's Shock. You make a good point too. Spider-Man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really like it. Yeah, I really like Insomniac, but I mean, they're an established studio that's been around for a while. Not only that, Naughty Dog as well. Sucker Punch. They just did Ghost of Tsushima. Like, they have so many studios under their belt that they have purchased. I think there's only a handful of them that are actually organically grown. You see Xbox making these acquisitions. I mean, they're doing what everybody wanted them to do, to go out and get huge talent, huge studios. Sure, they've gone a few smaller studios, but they're still really talented, like a Double Fine or a Compulsion. But then you look at Bethesda and Obsidian. They got... they're huge, massively talented studios, and then they've even created studios from the ground up to either shore up their biggest IP like Gears of War or Halo, or they're creating for new IP such as The Initiative. So, like, for Jim Ryan to really comment here, to me it just sounds like sour grapes, because Bethesda games, ZeniMax games, are not gonna possibly be on his platform.
Well, I also have to laugh how in the article it basically stated that when they bought Bethesda, Sony should have went out and bought Konami. Like, all of a sudden it's like, so basically we're not in it for games anymore. This is like tit for tat. Oh, he shot you with a missile, so we got to send a missile back. And it's like, so what you would rather do? Have these companies basically blow their budgets into oblivion, and basically Sony has to shut the doors because they spent all their money on buying studios?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, no, it's, I don't know, man, like, it's just a little hypocritical for Jim Ryan to be talking about that. As somebody said, I think it was Fuzzy, they're lying Jim Ryan. But...
I try not to bring up Dancing Shoes Jim Ryan, but the chat does it quite well.
Chat did it.
You've heard the Dancing Shoes joke, right?
Fantasy 16, yeah.
I'm sorry, the Dancing Shoes joke was the one that stuck for me because everybody was putting out that gif of the guy doing like the electric slide or whatever.
Oh, yes. Fuzzy here was saying, oh, yeah, Sony also bought Crunchyroll the other day, so...
Organically.
Did they acquire that? That went through?
Yeah, they bought Crunchyroll for a lot of money, so...
I'll be able to watch my Japanimations now.
Yeah, now you can get your heavily censored anime just on... Sony platforms now. Well, who knows what they'll do with that, but they bought them for a reason, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of content restrictions there. But guys, we'll move on to another topic. It's just interesting, Todd Howard's comments here regarding Bethesda games. I think he's kind of hinting at some kind of Xbox exclusivity, but we'll see in time. Their deal won't close for many months, but they can't talk a lot openly about things right now, but there's talk behind the scenes. But we will go on to probably what's going to be our last topic of the evening. And a couple of days ago, it was announced that Gears Pop, Microsoft's mobile Gears of War spinoff, will be shutting down, and the servers will be shutting down April 26th, 2021. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Megatron right now.
Oh my gosh. We know, we might as well just go ahead straight into this. We know why it's closing down, because me and Jeremy stopped funding that game. That's why. I spent so much money, but I had a lot of fun playing Gears Pop. It is what it is. It's kind of gone. It's kind of one of those things I think that kind of trends up and then it goes down and then you kind of move on. So
right.
There's Gears Pop. R.I.P. Maybe it'll go to the PlayStation for a little while and dance around over there.
I'm going to call Microsoft right now and get my fucking money back. That's what's going to happen.
I lost a lot of work at that. I mean, production went all-time low when I fired that game up. Like, nothing was not getting done. I enjoyed that game, Jeremy.
I think you spent more than me, buddy. How much did you spend? I'm guessing like $700 to $1,000 easy.
Yes.
Yeah, I spent around $400 or $500 on the game.
Really?
I didn't want to lose. You don't want to lose.
Hell?
It's just addictive, and it's right there. You got the sales right there. you just accept, and it goes in, and you got all these upgrades and like new soldiers. And I haven't played it. I mean, how long has it been? I haven't played that game in. It's probably been at least 7 months. 5? Okay, it's been at least 6 months. But I played that probably more than I played Gears at one point. At one point in time, I was playing Gears Pop more than I was playing Gears of War 5.
Well, it's so easy, right, to pick up because you can play it at work, you can just play it on the go, and it's very easy just to pick up and play. Like you said, I know you were basically addicted to it. I remember there was a couple of shows where you just be like, "Oh yeah, I've just been playing Gears Pop," and it's like, "Hey man, I don't blame you because it's right there in your hands."
So, if I can just put something out there, I have this weird theory. We all know that Xbox is building a workaround for iOS using the browser. We even brought that up on how people might even try to use a browser on a PlayStation to use Game Pass. I see Xbox probably pushing a much more heavier role for Game Pass in games that will be available on xCloud using your cell phone, using Game Pass. And I really see them taking games like Gears Pop and other games like that out of stores from Android and iOS, because they're probably going to push a much more heavier storefront for themselves when it comes to the games that they're creating, and they want people engaged in their ecosystem. And I think that with xCloud coming up in this workaround with iOS, I think there's probably going to be a much more heavier push for their own storefront on these devices.
Yeah, but I think the fact that the reason why Gears Pop wasn't successful later on in its lifespan was for the simple reason why it was really heavy pay to win.
Oh yeah,
very heavy pay to win, and there was not a true sense of strategy going on in the game. Yeah, there was some nice strategy elements in the game, but at the end of the day, whoever had, whoever was spending the most money was going to win that game for sure.
It was so. I remember on stage when they announced that before. I think it was Gears 4. Yeah. And I'm like, this is what they're showing us from the Coalition. And like I said before, I think me, you, and Tim ran into Rod in one of the lobbies at E3, and I'm talking, and the Gears Pops guys are right there, and I'm saying all types of stuff I wasn't supposed to say. It was a disaster, to say the least. But then come to find out, I love the damn game so much that I'm kind of sad that it's going. I know I cut Invader off, but the servers are going down on April 2020. 21? 26? Yeah. So, but it's a fun game, and it served its purpose in my Gears of War world. So, but yeah, man, it's just.
Who could forget the troll from the Coalition? I know exactly what you're talking about. We had just got done with that high off of Gears 4, and people wanted more Gears. And as a joke, they came out and showed Gears Pop just before they showed the trailer for Gears 5.
Yeah.
Dude, they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually done on purpose to get everyone's reaction, as they did.
Oh, he got
they trolled us.
Everybody thought they were like, "This is what we're getting."
Yeah, well, I had seen Rod at there was a day when it was Megatron. We saw him at the hotel.
Yeah.
And I had asked him that. He said we went with it a bunch of ways, but in the end we decided to do that to have a little fun. So, they knew that was going to be the reaction.
Gotcha. We also can't forget that cell phones are a total different market in Monster. I'm like, cell phones, there is games that come and go from that platform every single day. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but when it comes to cell phones, it's called the flavor of the month. And unless your game happens to be like crack cocaine, like, I'm sorry, but like seriously,
everything is lost in translation.
Everything's lost in translation. And you can also be, just like in YouTube, you can be drowned out by the next guy who shows up because they just happen to have a better poppin' product than you did.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, guys, keep in mind we talk about Gears Pop and mobile gaming. Xbox did pick up technically a mobile studio when they purchased ZeniMax. Alpha Dog, I believe it was, they make cell phone games. But I mean, I'm not sure they'll totally be making cell phone games from now on. We don't even know really what they're working on at this point, so they could always transition over into something else.
Well, you know, maybe they'll bring back Flappy Bird.
They make Flappy Bird. Who made Flappy Bird?
Maybe.
Like let's use an example real quick. Let's look at Angry Birds. Does anybody still play Angry Birds? Like we're talking about a cell phone game that actually had a movie made on it. Nobody plays it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But obviously Gears, it was Gears Pop. It was a spin-off title, right? And we also had Gears Tactics, an XCOM-like strategy game that came out this year, and it's going to be there for launch for the Xbox Series X, which I'm really down to playing. I really love those types of strategy games. But I'll just put it out there to the panel. What kind of genre would you like to see the Gears of War franchise branch off into? Or would you just like it to stay third-person shooter?
I would like it to see an RPG, not a strategy game, but just an RPG in general. Turn-based, just adventure game RPG.
So then you have Gears Tactics, then, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Not that kind of strategy to it. It's just like Final Fantasy, where it's turn-based, and you just run into enemies and. Just a different take.
I can see them doing something like Halo Wars or Gears Wars. I could see them doing something like that, where it's an RTS. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, they said Gears Tactics was phenomenal, so I don't
it's
I still have yet to try it, but I'm looking forward to when it comes out on consoles. But I can see, I love RTSs. Halo Wars, Halo. Those were both phenomenal, so I can see Gears doing the same route. Other than that, man, I can't see it no other way. I'm willing to try anything as long as it's fun.
Is it wrong that I don't have a particular game style that I'm looking for, like RTS, first-person shooter, any of that? For me, I'm wanting to see a spin-off on the franchise that kind of breaks away from the established characters that we have, because I'm wanting to see more of how the war started. I want to see, I want to be there for I think they call it Emergence Day. Like when basically they came out of the ground and stuff. Like I understand the lore, not to be spoilers of where the locust came from and stuff that has been showing you in the games. But I think that's actually an avenue that I feel like that has been untapped, is to basically put you at the beginning of that whole situation.
Yeah,
you want like a prequel. You want like something maybe like a prequel, or
like a prequel, but also at the same time, like I don't want it to be like cheesy. Like let's look at the Borderlands prequel. That was just something that was thrown out there just because it was a moneymaker. I want somebody that would actually take the lore and actually create the environment of what the world was like before these creatures came out of the ground and just started running amok.
So
you want it fully interactive, though, like a game. You don't want it like Telltale style.
No, right? Not like Telltale, like like what we're doing now, or maybe even take a Downer's RPG element to it and kind of like help shape it. But I really am. I'm sorry, but I am very interested in the lore of Gears of War. I want to know what these creatures, where they kind of exactly came from. I want to know about Emergence Day rather than reading about it. I mean, there is a lot of untouched potential for the Gears of War franchise. And I'm not trying to be mean, but the Gears of War franchise has revolved around Marcus Phoenix since day one.
Yeah. And in the beginning with Don, I would love to see their relationship and how they first got to meet one another and how their friendship became.
Exactly. Or you get to play the game of how Marcus ended up in jail. Because if you think about it, in the very first game,
that'd be cool.
You're breaking him out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that they can touch on. For example, early on, Gears Judgment kind of touched on what you were saying, although it was like a couple of months after Emergence Day, but it was still kind of cool to see like the early on destruction. But yeah, what you would want from what you're talking about is either right on Emergence Day or or possibly, I know a lot of people in the Gears community talk about possibly having a spin-off of the Pendulum Wars, like even before Emergence Day, like when you had like the two, basically the two faction countries like duking it out, right? So it'd be something
and that
different.
would be another part of, see, that's where I say like untapped lore. There is so much potential in this franchise, and there's so much lore.
But how
that
far
it's
back
like
do you
barely
want to go,
explored.
though? I mean, because if you, I mean, when you play Gears, it's Gears. And you have Locusts. If you go too far back, I think you take the Locusts out of it. Then what do you get? I think. I mean,
So if we all remember, if I'm right, it was Emergence Day that kind of helped shape the truce between the Pendulum Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was basically fighting themselves up and down until Emergence Day.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering the lore right. And that's where you could integrate that into a game. Like the beginning of the game could be human versus human, but as the game progresses, eventually Emergence Day happens and it flips.
Well, you can still call it Gears of War. I don't know how far back Gears go. The units Gears. How far do they go back in that lore? Do you guys know?
As far as I know, it's been since the Pendulum Wars, because you got to remember, it's been the two factions, and the main faction, that's where they got the term cogs, is you are the cogs, you are the gears of war, and that's why they called the soldiers cogs, and that's where some of that lore came from. So actually, I think the cogs have been around since the Pendulum Wars, and if I remember the Locusts right, like some of the lore, that's why the Locust weapons look different, is because they somehow like pretty much took over like one half and like kind of like their weapons and stuff. Like I've tried reading into it, and that's where I get lost, and I was like, I feel like this would be a better game than it would to sit here and try to read it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would personally like to see maybe something a little different that they could spin off from. Obviously, I don't want them to mess with whatever formula they have for the mainline games, and Tactics looks pretty cool in my opinion. I can't wait to try that out. I would like them to experiment with possibly a more, I don't want to say a horror game, but like the Locusts have always been scary, and I felt like some of the more recent games have kind of missed that, the scary Locust vibes. I would love to see them experiment with some kind of a more, I don't want to say serious, but like a horror vibe, like maybe some kind of a first person kind of a Gears game, like that kind of a vibe. Like I know it might not like tickle everybody's fancy, but I think there would be some kind of an avenue for that.
What about taking an entire game and basing it off of the Hive Busters concept? You wake up in a hive after being swallowed and all this other stuff, and the whole game revolves around trying to escape that hive. And you just see creepy, like horrific things going on in these hives.
Now we're getting to the what ifs.
No, I'm just saying. No, I actually like Invader's idea, and it actually could be done. I've always kind of thought in the back of my head that the Hive Buster concept is actually, I thought it was cool for the multiplayer, and I actually feel it's a little bit of an untapped resource, which is why I think that they're actually going back into it with Dave Bautista actually doing a Hive Buster DLC.
Yep. Invader, we do have a super chat for Mr. Victor.
Yeah, I was gonna wait till the end here if everybody's finished with their comments. Victor Alistine with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Victor. He says, they could make it like Final Fantasy or GTA series and start a new story with new characters and world, but with the Gears mechanics. That'd be interesting.
That'd be very interesting, actually. That'd be cool.
Yeah, he also had, I didn't realize he had a second super chat as well earlier with another $5 super chat from Victor. I think Halo should be taken from 343, and they should be allowed to make a new IP that helps build the studio organically. Well, I mean,
what are you gonna do with Halo then? You take Halo away from 343, then who's gonna work on 3? I mean, then where do you go with that? I mean, you can't.
No, you know what? It'd be interesting if you give Bethesda the Halo franchise and make kind of a Fallout-ish type game with it.
Well,
let's just have a total...
people are crying over skins. What color and badges, logos on a suit. Imagine what they're gonna do with that.
You don't mess
no,
with
leave it, bro. It's
as a joke. If I could be Microsoft, I'd just release an article that says, "Hey, we're switching up. The Coalition is now doing Halo, and 343 is now doing Gears."
No.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, 343 does have a lot of Bungie personnel that they had brought in when they created the studio early on. And while, I mean, personally, I may not like some of the directions they had went with the franchise, and there's a lot to comment on. I mean, I do like some things that I'm seeing recently, believe it or not, but they built that studio organically for the fact to focus on Halo. I'm really not sure what other studio would be able to do it. I mean,
remember, Jeremy, we got to go back and play that now. New consoles.
Yeah, for sure.
We're Guardians, right? Co-op and
you want to play it during the week or the weekend?
Weekend.
You tell me.
Better. Weekend, man.
Okay. Wait a minute. I thought you guys were playing. I thought you guys were playing Gears, not Halo.
Yeah, we're gonna play Gears.
Both.
Who said? I heard him
you know what?
Guardians.
I said Halo. I think Jeremy said Gears. I think we should do both. So.
All right, guys, and I think that this episode is now drawing to a close, and
the books.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? Hey, really fun chat tonight, fellas. I mean, we went on about the shakeups at 343 Industries and all that jazz. Not to mention the recent Todd Howard comments on Bethesda game and so much more. And I gotta say, I gotta give a huge shout out to everyone that tuned in and joined us this evening. Thank you guys from Victor, Psychonauts, Pong Soul, who else do we got here? Cryptasy, So Shady, hey buddy, thanks for joining us, and many others. I saw Stubbs was here, and yeah, amazing chat tonight. Thank you guys for the input. We appreciate you guys joining us, and we hope you enjoy tonight's banter. And with that said, let's get into the TXR crew outros. Tim had already left. Tim, great energy tonight, bud. We'll see you next week. I'll start off tonight with Megatron. Megatron, good show, bud. Where can everybody follow you at?
Hey, man, as always, it's Megatron_1975 on Twitter. You can hit me up on Xbox Live. My gamer tag is Megatron1. Good show, fellas. Thank you guys for coming through.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Next up, Jeremy, where can everybody follow you, bud?
Well, you can find me on Xbox at DownerSpaceJ. I do want to say, give a nice shout out to Mr. Tim and Centurion. They brought the fire today, man. Good job tonight, guys. You did a good job. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, they had some really great commentary tonight. Some really well thought out comments for sure. Speaking of Centurion, I'll go next to you, bud. Again, good show. Where can everybody follow you at?
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Yes, it has been an amazing show, and thank you for letting me chew your ears off by chatting way too much like I'm a Mike Tyson pay-per-view. So definitely, for those interested who want to find me, be sure to follow me on YouTube, Xbox Live, and Twitter at Centurion1307. I also do the Shop Podcast every Saturday night, and I do the TXR Podcast right here every Sunday night. And thank you, everyone, for coming in.
Cool. And round this out, Shockley, buddy. Good show tonight. I liked your commentary as well. Where can everybody follow you at?
Oh, yeah, as always, you can follow me at Shock Nero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, it was a really good show tonight. And what do we got? Is this our last? No, we got one more Sunday, one more show before the big day. So,
yeah, one more, man.
Week. So does that mean we're all taking that following Sunday off because everybody's going to be too busy playing with their Series X's?
No.
I'll be here.
Negatory.
Well,
I'm only joking.
Well, we're not playing Cyberpunk. Well, I guess that was going to come out.
You know what? Anyway. We're also not going to be playing Halo either, Shockley.
It's true.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if the medium moves too, since Cyberpunk moved on.
Yeah, it's
to
supposed
their
to be December 10th.
Yeah, so very curious to see how they'll pivot that one. But
I think they're just banking on Assassin's Creed, right? Comes out the 10th.
Seems that way.
On the launch date. Okay.
Yeah, they're banking on that. Well, Xbox is banking on that heavily because of the marketing, but
man, I still have to beat a Odyssey just so I can play Valhalla now. I've got 200 hours into Odyssey, and it's just like I gotta go back. Oh my god.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah, I got all kinds of games to finish off too, but I might just save them for the Series X and play them on there. But anyways, guys, to round this show off, this is Invader, and you can follow my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. Of course, I'm active on Twitter at Invader_1986 and a whole bunch of other platforms. Great show tonight, everyone. Again, as Shockley was alluding to, we're nearing the release of the Xbox Series X and S a week or so from now, and I'm just extremely excited to get my hands on these brand new consoles. It's a really exciting time. And hey, we hope to see you all next week. So until next time, guys, see ya.